There you go.
Okay, call the meeting to order at 6:32. Members present, myself, Gina Gasconi, Carlton Hunt, Harry Bailey, Patrick Driscoll, Jeff Merriman, and Stacy Driscoll. Guests are Kitty Doherty and Michael Dutton. Since Michael needs to leave, and we do have questions on one of the applications for Broad Street Properties, I'd entertain a motion to take that item out of order and take it first.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have the application for the purchase of the Broad Street Properties. Actually, I shouldn't say purchase because it was changed to taken by eminent domain. I understand it's a quicker process to go through that. Pat, I know you had questions on it. Would you like to start?
Yeah, I know. Can you hear me okay, Gina? Gina, can you hear me all
Yeah,
right?
you're real staticky though.
Is that better?
Yep, it is.
So I guess my only question is I went out to the site a couple of days ago. Have we done any engineering on that, Michael? Has the wetland been delineated? Are we sure we can even do what we want to do with that property?
So that's a good question. I think primarily what we want to make sure we do with that property is secure it. There's no, no specific notion that we would develop it into either that particular piece into parking, although that is a possibility. And so I guess I'd preface what I say by there's no specific notion for that piece yet. However, you asked about engineering. Both Azu and Greg Tansey have walked that site, and Steve Solbo have walked that site. So there is some wetland in the back area, but the actual lots that are in question are upland. So there is, if we choose to use that for parking, there is the possibility that we can use that for parking. Does that answer your question? And then it has also been wetland delineated. So we did that wetland delineation as part of the Stiles and Hart property.
So we do have a wetland line for those properties already in existence.
Correct.
So we know how much upland there is and that we know they are buildable.
They are definitely buildable. Yep. Definitely.
Is that something that's going to be shared with the CPC committee prior to the vote?
Sure.
I just think seeing what is available for upland is important, because if it's not buildable and it's or the wetland line extends to a point where the 25-foot no touch or the 50-foot no structure kicks in, then it may not be worth the 300 and something thousand that you're asking for, and it may it may just remain as open space anyway because of the shape of the topography or something like that. But if it is buildable, I think it's worth considering.
If I might add to that, I went into Google Earth, and you can do topographic data in Google Earth, and it drops off on the east side off about 10 to 12 feet from the upland part, and then it's a fairly steep, maybe gradual step off. So I've done a preliminary look at it, but I would like to get a better topographic map of it, to be honest with you. And this is the first I've heard that it may not be used for a parking lot. So, and accessibility to the area is a challenge from what I think. There's the entrance along the river, but then you go further north to these two properties, then you go further north to the curb cut on Broad Street. That's a very steep hill. That's not even safe for people that are not even accessible. It is very steep and very dangerous to come onto the road from that location. So this could be a nice compromise for accessing the property.
Right. I agree.
I had one more, Gina, I had one more
Go ahead,
question.
Pat, go ahead.
I'm in favor of it as long as it's buildable. I just think we should see the the wetland delineation if it exists, that's all. But my next question is, we keep seeing Hanson Farm, and I know Hanson Farm's moving along as far as an open space possibility. Are we sure? I mean, I know we spent a lot of money recently. Are we sure that if we spend this additional money on this piece, we're still gonna have the ability to properly potentially bond that Hanson Farm? This will not, I guess this will not affect that at all, is that correct? Am I wrong?
Could I speak to that?
Sure.
I have a presentation to show what we have in money that we've jumped over right now. We'll go back to that. The Hanson Farm would probably have to be bonded, and there's an application where you can look at the bonding capacity for the Community Preservation Committee, and I've done a little bit of work with that. And don't quote me yet, but I do believe we have sufficient income on an annual basis, just based on our 2% surcharge, that we can cover that bonding for sure.
Is that something that's been done by the town though? I mean, are we sure that, if, I guess my thing is, if we need this 60,000 for the Hanson Farm purchase, I think it's, then that may change my vote. But if we don't need this money for the Hanson Farm purchase, I'm fine with it. Because this is open space money. Do we have a calculation on our max bonding capacity if we use this money?
Don't quote me, but it's about 135,000 a year.
It's about a what?
About 135,000.
What's 135,000?
Say again?
What is 135,000?
The bonding, the amount of money that we take in annually with the bonds that we have, one of them's coming off in a couple of years, but those two bonds by this coalition's bonding capacity spreadsheet that I've run suggest that we would have at least $135,000 to go towards bonding on an annual basis. Right now it's $350.
So what would that carry for a bond?
Oh, I have no.
Is that going to carry $1 million? Is that going to carry $3 million? Is that going to carry $5 million? What's our bonding capacity? Do we know?
I'm going to defer that to
Yeah,
others.
Michael, can you address that?
So I that's a great question, and right now I don't know that that we can answer that because we don't have any appraisal from Hanson, so we don't know if it's going to be $1 million or $5 million or $10 million. Obviously, that how much that ends up costing is going to influence the CPC and its the decision to recommend or not. But we also don't know what kind of grant funding we're going to have available in order to offset that cost. So there are a lot of different factors that play into the decision of whether or not and how much to bond for a project. So I think better to answer your question, Pat, on the specifics. The long-term bonding capacity isn't going to be affected by spending CPC cash right now. I mean, basically not going to play a role in how long the long-term bonding abilities, except to the extent that if you use cash to pay down or down payment against the purchase of the easement, the agricultural restriction or the conservation restriction or what have you.
But I guess my question is, do we have a max bonding calculation for, let's say we want to do other projects. Do we have a calculation that says, hey, based on our revenues, based on our expenses, based on, the cash in the various buckets, we can bond up to $4 million? Is there a way to do that calculation?
There is a way to do that calculation. I think Carlton's, made reference to the bonding, a bonding calculation spreadsheet that the coalition uses, and I think DOR uses that as well. But I can ask Tony to provide that. Tony and Lori Guarini sort of keep track of the cash flow and also the long-term bonding capabilities. So I can ask them for that.
Yeah, if we could, for our next meeting, if we could get that wetland delineation and a bond capacity calculation, I think that's important.
Right. I agree, Pat. Looking at our budget as I think it's 11:30, we have 1.1 million in undesignated. So we'd have enough for this purchase here. We wouldn't have enough in open space itself. I shouldn't say purchasing and taking. So we would have the funds this year for it. But I agree that we should have the things that you've requested from Michael.
So I'm going to make a motion that we would postpone decision on this particular application until the questions that we've asked tonight are answered at the next February meeting. That's a motion.
Second,
If nobody's going to second it, it dies.
I'll second it. I'll second
I
it for
will
discussion.
second.
I just think we should know what we're voting on and see the engineering that we have for those parcels, that's all.
so Carlton, I'm trying to take notes on this and I'll look back at listen to the recording when it's up.
The
But
motion
the motion was to hold off.
to postpone decision on this particular application for the Broad Street acreage, to postpone that until the February CPC meeting.
No, January,
Excuse me, January,
okay,
December. I'm January meeting. My friendly
okay,
amendment, January meeting.
okay.
Sorry to push it fast.
No problem. Okay, any discussion on that?
Just a reminder, Michael's going to ask the finance department to look at the bonding capacity that we have, and also any other issues around that.
Right,
And then the wetlands delineation, the engineering reports.
okay, good, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, I got Gina, yes. Carlton,
Yes.
okay, it's not here. Stacy,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
and Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you,
The
Michael.
other thing,
Perfect. Thank you.
okay, Michael, do you have a few more minutes with us?
Sure.
Okay, the other thing, it's under, the other item, it's under new business potential prison trail project. We did receive the application.
We
Oh,
haven't taken
actually,
we
I'd
haven't
like a
taken that
motion
out of
to
order.
take that out of order.
It's not out of order. We didn't take it out of order.
Right, but we're not down to new business yet, and I'd like to just comment on that while Michael's with us.
Okay.
So I'm just looking for a motion to move the new, one item of new business up to discuss now. No motion? Okay, I will make the motion myself to take out of order the potential prison trail project. Discussion should just take a few minutes. Like to take it out of order and move it to the
I'll
next.
second
item.
that, Gina, Pat.
What was that, Pat?
I will second that.
Okay, thank you. You should have received back the middle of December, I believe, December 16th, from the email committees for the town, the application. I apologize.
Excuse me, Gina, do you need to, we made a motion in a second. Do you need to take a vote?
Okay, we do. I'm sorry. Thank you, Pat. I'm just trying to get to Michael, but okay. Gina, yes. Carlton,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
and Jeff. Okay,
Yes.
thanks for the reminder, Pat. That was unanimous. The application was sent out. I apologize. It wasn't part of the packet because I guess I just overlooked that we had it, but it was sent to the whole committee, whole CPC committee. And as I said, the sender was committees. The application was there. So we did get it. It's just not part of the packet.
Gina, may I
David.
comment? Gina, if I could comment, I did not receive it until 5 o'clock today.
Okay, my next question was, did everybody else receive it? I recall receiving it.
I have not.
Okay. What we're going to do, and
Jim, was
I'll,
that an email? There was an email sent today?
no,
No.
it was sent on December 16th. Carlton got it today because I just forwarded it because he said he hadn't received it.
Who was it from you or was it from?
No, it was from, the sender was committees, which is out at Michael's office.
1216, I already got it.
And it did go out to the whole CPC membership.
Harry, did you receive it? And Jeff also, please?
I don't remember receiving it.
Okay,
I don't remember either.
okay, you guys can check back and we will have it sent back out. What it is for there are actually 2 emails. The second one just lowered the amount requested. So Michael, we just have, before we go too far with this, a question is, who should be signing? Yourself? Is it a town project? Is it in the application? It looks like the land is being transferred to the town of Bridgewater. Is it the NRTB that's actually requesting the funds, or is it the town?
So good question, Gina, and I'll probably defer to Kitty, who's at the meeting as well, but since it's an application for a project on what will be town property, it's appropriate for me to sign it. It's a project that's obviously being driven by the NRTB, which is local nonprofit. So I guess appropriate for me to sign, but certainly appropriate for the NRTB and Kitty Doherty to be advocating for the project or organizing the project.
Okay, thanks. That was, I don't want to get into too much of a discussion on it, where a lot of the membership here tonight hasn't seen it. But that was a question that Carlton and I had both come up with looking at it. And I just wanted to address that in case it needed to be changed before the next meeting.
Gina, thank you. Could I ask a couple of
Sure.
quick questions since we have
Sure.
Michael? So the town will hold the deed at this point, if that goes through, correct?
So under the legislation, so once you get a chance to review the application, you'll see at the very end as part of an attachment, there are the 2 pieces of legislation that grant the town the ability to hold essentially a trail easement. I'll call it a trail easement for lack of a better term. And the trail easement is given to us by the state, specifically Department of Corrections, in return for essentially us hosting the state's second fire academy at on the DOC property. So it was that provision was a grant of a trail easement to us in return for hosting the new fire academy. But so we would hold a recorded easement, a recorded deed, or a recorded easement rather.
Second question, does this require conservation restriction?
Yes.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I would assume it's already.
I have some
don't know.
thoughts on this, if I could, if you want me to
Sure,
jump in
Kitty.
at any
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Just before Kitty goes, I believe any CPA money has to have a conservation restriction if it's open space. That's my belief.
And Carlton also mentions in the application, right at the start, it mentions a conservation restriction. That the survey is needed before the conservation restriction can be put in place.
So my last question, and then I'll get to Kitty quickly. Who holds the conservation restriction?
The town.
Who in the town holds it?
Conservation Commission is the only one that can hold the conservation restriction.
And has the Conservation Commission been spoken to about this?
There's a couple of things here that need to be clarified so that you'll understand that this is the house that Jack built. Whenever you would like me to jump in, I'll be happy to do that.
Sure. First, I'd like to just ask Harry if Concom has been involved in this,
As what?
if Conservation Commission has been involved.
They've walked the site. The agent is.
We're asking Harry.
I
Thank
don't
you.
know what the agent does.
Okay, Harry, my question to you is either, I think it was Kitty or Michael just referred to Conservation Commission holding the conservation restriction. I think it was Michael. My question to you is, has the Conservation Commission been involved in this, been talked to about holding the restriction?
We hold all the restrictions, so when it comes up, yes, we'll hold it.
Right. I guess I'm asking too, if the Conservation Commission has been involved in this site.
It's on our agenda.
Okay, but you haven't to this point discussed it.
No,
Okay, thank you. Okay, Kitty, you had something to add?
Yes, I would like to mention the fact that the legislation, the first part was done about 3 years ago. And the legislator had, the legislators had indicated that they wanted to donate this trail that would end up, this area that would end up being about 1.1 miles long to the town. And the town would hold the conservation restriction through the conservation department. And the DCAM is the one that put out the bids for the engineering. There had to be some clarification because the original legislation did not include provision for parking lots. So that went back through the legislature. It was cleared and voted and passed favorably last June. And then it took another month or two for DCAM to put out the request for bids. And then it took another little while for all of that to be cleared. So it wasn't until December, late November, that NRTV was notified that it had been cleared. NRTV is a partner with the town on this, so that we could get the most of the private nonprofit world and also the town world. Our NRTV is always searching for ways to use outside money that doesn't have to be raised through the town appropriations. This is the second phase of a 5-phase project. The first phase was getting a provisional trail delineated and getting all of the consultant for a proposed plan together, and that went right along so that then we have the provision for the parking lots and the trail. The easement will be 50 feet wide and the trail will be about 10 feet wide within the 50-foot section. So all of that stuff has been decided. And at this point, we don't have a project and we don't have a trail at all unless we can honor the engineering bid that DCAM has now notified us that we have. And that is for $65,000. Now, we've come to you in partnership with the town asking for $40,000. NRTV has raised $15,000 through the Taunton River Wild and Scenic Stewardship Council, and hoping that you will vote favorably on this immediately. We would then have that 40,000, and we also have another funder who is in the same process that you're in, which is going to vote on it within a week or two, and that is for another $10,000. That's from the Sheehan Family Companies I can't say the word unless I practice it. Their grant funding mechanism anyway, so that NRTB will have raised $25,000 and the town will put up $40,000. And then we will have enough to immediately get the contract signed so that the engineering can be done on site, or the survey can be done on site, because by the end of January, it's due on February 1st. NRTB wants to put a trail proposal in, or a grant application in, to Mass Trails to be able to cover making the parking lots and getting the next phase of the construction done. This phase that we're asking for this money for will get the deed drawn up for the conservation restriction and recorded. Then we need to have the next phase, which would be phase 3, which we want this grant in for, but we can't apply for that unless the town has the ownership, or will soon have the ownership of that CR, because they will not award money for something that the town doesn't own. So that if we don't make this date or this calendar sequence here, then it's gone. Now, right now, NRTB also has 2 internships at Bridgewater State University for the spring semester that will bring in a lot of the work for the phase that we're still wanting to have the next grant go out for. So there's a lot of stuff that's riding on your vote tonight. I'm so sad that it isn't something you're comfortable with, because we need to be able to tell the town, care of Michael Dutton, you know, that guy. We need to be able to tell him that, yes, we have favorable verbiage from CPA or the CPC. We have the stewardship grant, and we're still anticipating within 2 weeks to know about the Sheehan Family Grant. And then we'll have enough money for this particular survey to take place, so that then by the end of January, NRTB can put in the next grant proposal to get enough money for the trail parking lots and to start some of the other stuff that's out there, plus the 2 internships.
Okay, quick question, Kitty. Thank you. We're actually getting into a lot more discussion that
Say that again. I'm sorry, I don't have the clarity here.
No, there is this feedback on some of the things. We're actually a lot deeper into it now that I anticipated tonight, but I thank you for your input. I have a quick question though. Phases 3 and 4 total close to $200,000. Would you be coming to a CPC for any of that?
Not if we can raise it outside.
Okay.
But so
Okay.
that's one of the reasons that NRTB was even formed, was to be able to find outside money to be able to do some of the things that are in our open space and rec plan.
Okay, good.
Gina, can I ask a question?
Carlton, yes, go ahead.
Kitty, who is on the current membership of the NRTB? And are you an official 501(c)(3)?
We're official 501(c)(3). And the people that are working with us on this, we have hired under our nonprofit Conservation Works LLC, which we refer to as our trail guys. They're both foresters and they are professionals with trail making. That's Dick O'Brien and Pete Westover, and they're the ones that have been advising us on a lot of this. And they are also part of the internship partnership at the university, which will be pulling together branding and signage, marketing and mapping. And that's also in partnership with the Center for Northern Woodlands Education out of Lyme, New Hampshire. So that's a professional forestry group that will be working with us as well.
So I have a follow-up question, if you don't mind. Where does your money come from?
It comes from grants and whatever people send us in.
And who's the membership again? You haven't answered that for me. Who's on the board now?
Right now, Peter Dangoya is the treasurer. Peter Fuller is the vice president, and James Hayes Bohannon is the president. And I'm the person that runs around with the club.
Thank you. This is a bit of a problem. First of all, we had a hearing a month and a half ago, publicly notified in the paper, and nobody came forward to the committee to say that this was potentially in the works. There were town employees on the meeting, there were citizens, there were elected
We didn't
officials.
know that, we didn't know that, Carlton, until DCAM gave us the bid quote. We didn't even have an idea what it would be. It's
I believe,
DCAM that sent it in.
I believe that meeting was after your notice.
Not that I know about.
That's fine. We're not going to argue that here. The point is that this is a big surprise to us. And quite frankly, I'm going to show that we are not really cash rich on the CPC right now. So I'm going to suggest that if somebody else wants to make the motion, but I'm going to suggest that we postpone this until the February 28th meeting.
Then we are no longer going to be able to do this.
So, Carlton, can I ask a question?
Sure, Pat, go ahead.
So I look at this project, I think this is a great project. I mean, I think this is exactly what we want at CPC. There's other sources identified. The state drew up legislation to allow this to happen. It creates over a mile of active recreation that I think we're lacking in town. And it's not a lot. I think we get a lot of money I think we get a lot of value for a short amount of money. Almost 40% is matched.
Pat, don't misread me. I agree with that. It's a good one. I am very upset about the process that's 3 years old, and this is the first we heard about it. And that's not how we like to do our business here. That said,
but at the same time, if what Kitty is saying is true, Carlton, there's an opportunity. I mean, just because we don't like the way it came to us doesn't mean it's still not a good idea, right? And there's value in doing it now.
I agree.
If there's interns set up at the university, if there's other grant funding, if there's a private individual looking to put up money, and if this secures, I mean, this is a great project, in my opinion. So I mean, I would be in favor of it. I don't think we should delay it because it came to us after a hearing. I think it's
There was nothing that the NRTB or the town could have done to have it any quicker, because we had to wait until DCAM from the state sent us that information in order to even know what the bid quote was going to be for the person that, or the company that they were going to approve for.
I think our public hearing, if my memory serves me right, was the end of October.
There's somebody named
They
Janet
said-
this week. Could we clarify?
I don't know what you said, I'm sorry.
There's somebody named Janet who keeps lighting up here showing that.
I don't know who that is.
I don't either. That's why I'm asking.
What, you're kind of muffled, Carlton. I just let Janet in. Is that Janet Hanson? Janet's iPad? Whoever it is, you're muted.
Tina, I guess why, if somebody from the public is on that doesn't want to be recognized, why are we asking who it is?
Because I believe it's Janet Hanson. I just want to clarify that.
We need to have it for our records in the minutes.
Right.
Are you
If they
talking to me?
Yes, Janet Hanson.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify for our records who is here. Okay, thank you. Back to the discussion. I agree. I think it's a great project. Ideally, we can say, yes, we like to have things X number of days ahead of the meeting. As Pat said, things happen. Doesn't always happen the way you want it, where this has a deadline. And Kitty, just to clarify, when Carlton said February, I think he said February 28th, I believe he meant January again.
Yes,
Okay.
I did that, but let me ask a quick question. You've got some potential other money coming in. How will, if the CPC voted for this tonight, for the number I've seen is 50,000, it's 40,000 now?
Yes,
right? It got decreased to 40,000.
Okay, so if that money's voted and you get other grant money, and this has, by the way, this has to go before the
town
town council.
council, what, we know. That's why
Right,
it's so
so-
sensitive for timeline.
Right,
And the
that's
money,
why I'm upset.
it's the town that's the fiduciary for this project.
So the
Now,
point,
Kitty,
my question is as follows. If you get other grant money, that would reduce the amount of money that the CPC would have to pay.
No, the 25,000, which would be the two grants that we have sought. One of them we have for 15,000, the other one is for 10, and that too is working between the committee's meetings over the holidays. So I'm reasonably confident, but I'm not positive that that will go through. But then we will have $25,000 to add to your $40,000. And it will all be something, what monies the NRTB gets will go right back to the town into the fiduciary account to pay for this engineering survey. Michael, help me out if I'm saying this wrong.
Michael's on mute. right
Nope,
now.
that sounds right.
Okay. Kitty, two things. The first, if we do vote for it tonight, I can send something tomorrow to the town council. They would then have to, they met last week, so I think it's next week they'd meet. It takes them two meetings, roughly 30 days to approve something, which even if we vote positively for it tonight, it'll still take 30 days to get through the council. Would this other grant that you have to apply for before the start of, or at the start of February, would they accept just a letter that CPC has recommended it?
We need to have the money in hand to do the engineering study. That's something that we have to demonstrate in the next grant. That the grant that we're going to go for in January is something that during the calendar year of 2023 would be the parking lots and the beginning of roughing out the trails. That grant only needs to have documentation that the town holds the easement. I don't know how much of this time-wise could be this week or that week. I was hoping that Michael had said something to me and I didn't dream it, that maybe there could be a hurry up emergency vote with the council at their next meeting as well, so that we could strive on in confidence. And then the town could get the contract signed with DCAM's choice of the engineer that we have to have.
So
That's why I
Kitty,
said this whole thing is like the house that Jack built, but we're dealing with legislators, the DCAM, DOC, the town, and NRTB, and we're also partnering with two different nonprofits like the university and the Center for Northern Woodlands Education for the internships, which will again be the most awesome part of this project in the next phase for the next grant. But if we do not have documentation in hand, when we send in that grant proposal by the end of January, we don't have a project. And I don't see people in NRTV still waiting around to do that with another grant maker for another year. We will have lost a lot of our support by then.
so
Hey,
Kitty, Kitty, let me try to do,
Go ahead.
I want to try to clarify the timeline. Town council does not meet until, I believe, the 10th of January.
Yes,
They can hold, not send it to committee. If they send it to committee, they have to do that within the 2 weeks, so that the meeting that they can actually vote on it would be whatever 14 after 24th of January. That's the soonest they could vote.
is Michael still there? Michael knows what I'm trying to say.
And I know you said that, used the word emergency. This
Yeah,
doesn't rise to an emergency.
well, it does if you want that trail. And that trail, by the way, that trail is something that connects Plum Island with Fall River. that trail is something that is so awesome by way of the forestry education that will be out of this. I can't begin to explain some of the things that this internship project will bring, and also the fact that this is a woodland trail that connects to the wild and scenic Taunton River. There's an awful lot of positive stuff that will come of this if we're able to pull it together time-wise. I know
Okay.
it's like having triplets on the highway after dark, but that's what we have to do if you want to have this for the community.
Kitty, I think
Gina, can I say something?
sure, Pat, go ahead.
I guess I don't understand what we're talking about the council for. We have something before us. We can't control the council.
I know.
If the council takes 2 weeks or 4 months, that has nothing to do with us. So
So-
we have an application before us that will send a recommendation, potentially yes or no, to the council. And then if they want to handle it, if they determine an emergency, that's up to them. I don't understand why we're talking with the council.
All I'm saying,
I had just brought it up thinking if it's not, the council approving it is not going to meet the timeline that Kitty's saying for grant applications, then it's a moot point with us. So that's the only reason I had brought up the council. But it's true. If we recommend it, then it's up to the council to get it approved.
So
Good.
Gina, if I could, before I really have to go, but before I go, I think Carlton pointed out, it's not technically an emergency for the council. So it wouldn't qualify to be voted same night it's introduced. I don't think in my tenure that's maybe happened once on something that was, considered by definition considered an emergency. On this one, it would just go through the normal cycle, presumably first reading on the 10th of January, and then second reading and vote, hearing and vote on the 24th of January. So that would be the potential timeline. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, and that would still meet the deadline for the application,
Correct.
correct?
and
Kitty?
that would still give you, Michael, time to get the contract all done with DCAM, right?
Yeah, it's
Can't do
it's
anything else
DCAM
for town business but that.
It's DCAM's contract, so there's not a whole lot of say we have in it. We just sign.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Hey, thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
for Michael and Kitty for your input, the rest of the committee. I know we got the application later. However, as Pat has referenced it is an important vote. Would the committee like to take a vote on it tonight? For the ones who
Yeah,
haven't,
I'd make a motion to approve recommend to approve the 40,000.
Second,
okay. Let me just mark it. Okay, roll call vote. Gina, yes. Carlton,
No.
okay. Stacy,
Yes,
Pat,
Yes.
Harry,
yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 5 yes and 1 no.
Okay, while we have Kitty on, can I ask a quick question about open space? If
You
she's
can
still-
ask me a long one. That doesn't mean I'll have an answer.
So on page 22, the 28-page attachment that I found from 1216, I've always wanted to know this, and I guess, so most of the land that we could consider prison land in Bridgewater,
Yeah,
I know, what is that? So everything that's shown in green, is that under what they call chapter 93 or 97?
the 97 land was brought into, under the state constitution in 2004, and it's 425 acres. The property that's all along Summer Street, that is part of it. it goes over the tracks, and then there's more that are down below the power lines to the river. And then when it gets over into where the residents of the prison still are, I'm not exactly sure where it would end through Jolly Meadow going toward Route 28 and 18.
But I guess my question is, the map I'm looking at, and you probably don't have it in front of you.
Is that the map of the proposed trail?
Correct.
Okay,
Everything that's shown in green. Is that all chapter 97 land?
yes,
So the cornfields and stuff off Flag Street actually look like they're in chapter 97 land, correct?
they are, but that wasn't the same legislation. That came through the Flag Street property that with the soccer fields and the hayfield that's on Flag Street came through with the legislation for the fire academy. Jolly Meadow, which is down at the bottom of the hill, just after the little brook going toward 28, that was in the first article that the legislators passed in 2004.
But most of that state property is in chapter 97, it looks like, correct?
Yes. Now,
Except,
when
for-
all of
except,
everything on everything on Flag Street for frontage is in chapter 97. Some of it's in permanent recreation, some of it's in permanent agriculture, and some of it is as permanent forest.
so most of that prison land could, if they decided, most of that, in order to come out of chapter 97, that's pretty difficult, correct?
Yes, it is. It would take a 2/3 vote of the legislature, plus you would have to replace the land with something in the same vicinity of equal value.
All right, so most of that, I get nervous with this MBTA communities and that the governor is looking at selling state land.
Say that again?
Mara Healy has said that she's looking to sell state land for more housing. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, no, this is protected. It would be difficult. We would
Well,
have,
okay, that's what I want to make sure. All right, good. So
this is
every-
under permanent conservation, agriculture, passive recreation, forestry, and that type of stuff for this property.
So all that land around Ice Pond, it's in green, all this, so most of it is permanently protected,
I
correct?
believe so. I don't know where near the prison that it would qualify for housing because the state
No,
took.
no, I'm not saying they ever would do housing there, but
Okay,
I'm just saying that,
well, they do have upland off of Cook Street and going up toward Alden Square. But they did take down probably 2 decades ago, 38 homes in there, so one is unbalancing the other one if they decided to do some other type of development there.
but my only question is that everything in green is 97. If it's shown as.
Yes, and the fields that are there are under lease with 2 or 3 farmers. One farmer has just sold his property in Middleborough, but another of the leased farmers are taking over that. So I believe there's 2 or 3 agricultural endeavors that are still down there. And they have leases for a certain number of years. And then those are green productive properties right now, I believe corn and hay and maybe some other products for animals.
But even if it's not used for that, it's still permanently protected.
It should be. That's the intent.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Pat, and well, the whole committee, your motion needed to address what account we'd be taking the 40,000 out of. Can we? I guess we need to vote to. Do we need to? Pat or Calvin, help me with this. We have a
What
vote,
account was it recommended to come out of? Was it recommended?
right? Need to know what it's recommended from. Do we have to recall our vote and do a new motion, or? Calvin, you're muted.
Sorry about that. It would take
That's
a
okay.
separate vote, and I'm going to give you the number in a second. It has to be the undesignated fund.
Right. Right, so we have to recall
Give me 2
the
seconds.
other vote.
The amount of money, the account number is 359000, undesignated fund.
Right, but that should be included in the vote.
Gina, why don't we I'll make a motion to take the 40,000 that was approved out of the undesignated account 359000.
Second,
Okay,
I will second.
okay, discussion? Okay, hearing, roll call. Gina, yes. Carlton,
yes.
Stacy,
Yes,
Pat,
Muted.
Yes.
okay, Harry
Yes,
and Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay. That was semi-painless. Okay, moving back to the order of the meeting. Kitty, again, thank you for all your input and best of luck with the project.
And thank you too for understanding how sensitive this is with the timeline. And when people are working with the state agencies and they don't all talk to each other, sometimes it just takes long. It took 1.5 years to get the description of it straight, but it is
Right.
now.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys too.
Thank you. Okay, back to the order of the agenda. Chair's announcements. The only one I have is that we have a new community and economic development director. His name is Robert Ruley, and he comes from Warren, Rhode Island. And he's worked in I'm not sure what his title is down there, but he's worked on a number of projects similar to what Bridgewater is going through. He's won a lot of awards for plans he's put in place. And hopefully we'll get to meet him at one of our meetings. But I would just publicly welcome him to the town. Public comments? Okay, hearing none. Approval of minutes. You had the draft minutes of November 30th.
Motion to approve.
Okay, second.
I will second.
Okay, discussion.
They're very complete.
Hearing none. Roll call. Gina, yes. Carlton,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes,
Pat. Pat, you muted.
Yes.
Okay, Harry.
I have to abstain. I wasn't present.
Okay. And Jeff.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Motion pass. Review of financial reports. Carlton has something to present. I keep clicking the wrong thing here. Here we go. I just want to say the new format that we've worked on with the finance department to highlight things that make up the CPA reserve for continued appropriations, the way finance has highlighted from the actual budget expenses to that summary balance sheet. I personally think helps a lot. The other thing is Carlton and I had met with the finance department a few months back, and one of the things that was decided is that CPC would approve invoices that come to the town for projects being paid with CPA funds. It served well because we've actually caught a few things that for the pickleball courts that weren't paid appropriately. Nothing, not condemning the finance department. It was submitted to them as pickleball expenses. Technically, they should have been Parks and Rec expenses. So we're just working to correct that. And it's through this, us approving the invoices that was caught. So that's working well. Okay, let's see. Carlton, do you want to share your screen to go over the budget discussion?
I'm gonna figure this out.
Better you than me, because
Can you see what's up there now?
yep. It
Okay.
needs to, there it is. Yep.
Okay, so what I'm looking at here is I took a look at the November 30th report and I looked at anticipated projects and I wanted to put some stuff together to show us where we're at. And so this table basically has the account numbers, it has the title. I don't know if you can see my arrow, but it's got the balances of June 30th, and then it's got the budget we voted last year, fiscal year, and then it has the balances as of November 30th. And you'll notice that we had a very low open space balance in June, but we voted 307,500, and that increases to 337,127. We've already committed to the mobile station, 313,900. And so our balance in the open space reserve is back down to 227. You go through the same thing, historical preservation. As of November 30th, we had a little over 300,000. We voted 82,500. And so we have a limited, and basically that's already showing up in the account balances of 304,000. Housing reserve is 411,000 right now. And we have, I think, under consideration by the town council, the housing authority windows and doors, that was voted to come out of that account. And therefore, when that goes through and if it becomes official, there's $48,000, $49,000 in the housing account. And then the undesignated balance, basically what we're looking at here is about $771,000 after all four of those. And since we voted tonight, well, here's the admin account. That's a bit of a problem. We didn't vote the full 5% last year. Because of that, we had voted a number of projects that were supposed to terminate, but we were not notified. That's one of the things we're clarifying with have clarified with the finance department. We didn't encumber those monies at the end of the year. So that would have been, if they were encumbered, they would have been out of the FY22 budgets. Since they were not encumbered, the town finance department decided to pay some invoices that were against that. And that decreased our available funds that we have for this year more than what we had planned. So right now, this admin expenses, it shows a balance of $25,900, and there is $12,551 in remaining commitment. So the bottom line is that, well, let me go up to the top. This reserve for continuing appropriation, that is appropriated money. It's already been assigned to a project, so it's not available for us to spend. The cash available to expend, this bottom line, that we have right now is about $1.1 million. We've just voted 40,000 to come out of that. So that's what we have to cash to spend. I'm going to stop for a minute and see if anybody has any questions. Hearing none.
No.
Carlton, quickly, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I read in the minutes, are we anticipating another 250,000 from the legislature right now?
I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I'm not sure if that's already entered in, but they did vote an extra amount of money that comes into us, but I don't know when that hits the books. I think that probably will come into the December. So that $250,000 basically goes to undesignated.
And then we also anticipate, just reading, we also anticipate about 500,000 back from Styles and Hunt once the conservation work is done. And that'll go.
That's a reimbursable grant. So we have to spend the money and then they give the money back to the town.
But that would go back into open space. So open space could potentially be 523, correct?
It could go up. I don't remember if that was taken from open space or undesignated reserve, but it goes back into the accounts that it came from.
When do we anticipate that money?
Sometime over the next 2 years.
That long, potentially 2 years.
Is it that long? Wow. Okay, I thought it was because the grant was the award of the grant. I thought Michael had said they should be here like anytime now, and
Yes, but it's a reimbursable grant. So
but we
the
have
money,
to spend it to get
they
it
have to
back.
spend it. You have to
To get
spend
it
it
back.
to get it back, as I understand it.
Correct, correct. I was just gonna say something else on that, but I can't remember what, so.
So I want to move us forward a little bit. So with the
Mhm.
little green thing box is basically if you took the 771,000 and added it to the different reserve accounts, that's the amount of money that we have towards all these other things that Pat talked about. True, but right now the books would say that we have about 800,000 in open space. We could spend $1 million towards historic preservation and about 800,000 in housing. So I don't want to confuse people, and this is all in the packet that you got with some changes that I made recently. But anyway, that's just to let people know we're not real highly flush with money. So we have to be pretty aware.
Calvin, can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah, on that little green box.
This
the
one,
separate- Nope, I'm pointing at it, like you can see what I'm pointing, that
Okay.
one right there.
the maximum.
Maximum
the maximum.
FY23 money. For open space, for example, it shows 794,000, but
Right.
in the big chart above it shows 23,000.
Yeah, it's how I did it. It shows if you add 771 and 2327, if we had a project that required that much money, we could use those two accounts to cover that amount. Okay.
Okay,
And it just, I was just trying to explore and see how much money we actually had that we could spend towards different projects.
okay. Okay, is everybody clear on that so far? Okay,
Thank you. And so here's kind of the kicker, because I mentioned the administrative account activities. Again, we voted 40,000 last year without thinking that we would have money that would be spent unexpectedly. So what I've done here is show the Jennings Hill Cemetery assessment was 6,500. We talked to them today. They are anticipating, hopefully, probably 50-50 chance that they would access that money. So that money could or may not be available. The Senior Center Recreation Master Plan was a $12,000 project. We've already paid 4,700 out of that account. And the PAL account is for the Congregational Church, Central Square Congregational Church's money that we needed to get a deed restriction. So we had agreed to pay some money for that, and they've invoiced for half the cost. So we awarded 3745, half of it's spent. So what I did is to look at how much money we had available going forward. We've paid coalition dues at 3,000. We've paid as advertising fees for the public hearing at 222. And this number I changed tonight, it's 40,000. So it's an anticipated set. And it's not from the admin account. It comes from a project account. So those are just things to let you guys know where we're at. And the final piece is we're carrying an estimated cost of the Hanson Farm appraisal at 15,000. That could go up, it could go down. We just don't know at this point. So the summary is
Has
that
the appraisal been ordered yet? Are we doing an appraisal on that yet?
we are waiting, as far as I know, we're waiting for the final meets and bounds, the survey property boundaries. They need to decide what they're going to include and what they're not going to include in the conservation activity.
right, but Kat, we did vote for the appraisal to be taken from administrative.
We haven't voted on it yet. We have not voted on it yet.
When do we anticipate?
When the meets and bounds are done and the Hanson say, this is what we want to conserve, when we get that survey information, then the town will go out for an appraisal. And I'm sorry, maybe in January's meeting, we can talk a bit more about that. Hopefully
Okay.
we'll move forward, okay?
Mhm.
And moving on, this is simply looking at the administrative account. FY23 budget, 40,000. We had committed funds of 22,345, paid expenses of 30,000 plus, anticipated. And if it comes out that way, we're going to be overspent. We can't overspend it. We'll be short money. I'm thinking, quite frankly, that the cemetery will not happen because it doesn't sound that there's much success communicating with the trainer that was going to come do the assessment. And I'm hoping that, in fact, the appraisal will come in under 15,000. So we just have to watch this a little bit carefully.
Mhm. What,
And that's what I wanted to talk about.
yeah, can you back up the screen to your, there?
This one?
Okay, yep, that was it. I just wanted to double check something for my own mind. I would like to note that tonight, when we voted for the survey for the prison trails, we took it out of our irregular account, out of undesignated. Other surveys we've taken out of the admin fund. However, because it's so low on monies, as Carlton explained, because of the funds weren't encumbered at the end of last fiscal year, it was best to take the 40,000 for that out of undesignated. So it's actually our account, it's automatically encumbered too. Okay,
All right, all set.
what was that, Carlton?
I'm just asking if it's all set so I can stop
Oh,
sharing.
okay, yep. Any questions on that? I'd like to thank Carlton for a great report showing what we have or possibly don't have. But thank you very much, Carlton, for your work on that. Okay, moving on. Old business, we covered the Broad Street properties. Central Square Congregational Church phases 2 and 3 is still on hold. Funded project updates, the library archival and digitization project is just about complete. They do have one invoice that they're holding on because an issue with the delivery of parts. But if you haven't looked at the display case, it's been in the library, I highly recommend it. They look awesome, the way they have them set up. Okay, Stiles and Parkland improvements. Again, it's in process. It's pending. Last we heard is still pending completion of wetlands delineation and the Conservation Committee certification. Central Square Congregational Church restoration, the deed restriction is still in process. Pickleball courts are done. We're still waiting for a final report, hopefully, and verification of the invoices paid to make sure everything was paid that should have been paid, and things that were paid out of paid with CPA funds that shouldn't have been are going to be reversed back to Parks and Rec journal entry. Memorial building is nearing completion. Hopefully we can get a walkthrough for that. We'll check with Michael. McElwain School is, I think it looks great going by, nearing completion as well. And you should have received a notice from the town manager's office about a tour date on January 4th, 12 to 1. I'll send a notice for that too, because if we have a quorum of our committee there, we have to post it as a meeting. So I'll send out a notice just to see who's available for that date. Any discussion on the funded project updates? I know I kind of whipped through them quick. Okay, projects recommended pending town council approval. Taking the Summer Street property at the council meeting last Tuesday, the 20th, they referred it to advertising. They didn't make note. They talked about the advertising and the taking itself. To me, it sounded like they took no action yet on the CPA funds. So, and I know Michael had said one has to definitely come before the other, that it can't be a, both voted at the same time, so that could be their rationale for that. Once it is approved, to purchase it, they then have 60 days by law to complete the transaction, which basically, because the town council takes the 30 days to get something voted, once it's voted by them, it knocks it down to 30 days for the transaction. I still have a question on that, is where it's an unfriendly taking, if the owner of the property doesn't like the amount that the town votes for it. If he wants more, we've asked the question of the town manager, is CPA liable for it, or the town itself? So that's a question that's out there. Okay, Hemlock Drive windows and door replacement, the council voted on, well, they didn't vote for it, but they referred it to the Budget and Finance Committee. Any discussion on either of those two? Okay,
Gina, I just want to quickly say there's
Sure.
at least one counselor, and maybe, well, on these projects, one of them, somebody's questioning whether or not CPC should be covering the full cost, the 313,000 we voted. So I don't know where they'll go with that. And in terms of the windows at the Housing Authority, there are some questions around that one also that we may or may not hear about soon. So there are some questions around how much. I'll remind the committee that the council cannot increase the budget, the recommendation. They can only reduce it, accept it, or deny it.
great, thank you. Okay, eligibility forms approved with applications is Hanson's Farm. As Carlton said, final boundaries are pending, and the conservation restriction is in process. Methodist Church for historic restoration is also pending too. I think they're just about done with their application. So we should be getting that soon. Okay, administrative account update. Carlton alluded to the Jennings Hill, that for our cemetery study for the restoration of gravestones. They're trying their darndest to get in touch with the person that was supposed to teach them how to clean the gravestones. They're thinking possibly by the end of the fiscal year, but as Carlton said, it's a 50-50 shot on which way it goes. He also talked about the senior center design study. Next thing is completion of documents. We had a policies and procedures document at talk about a living document. I think this thing's going to still be alive in 1,000 years. Carlton's put a lot of work into updating. We're just going to do a final look at and send it back to the town manager and the finance director just for their okay.
But we'll need a final vote from the committee, right?
Correct. Correct. Do we, which is the cart before the horse? Does the committee vote for it first and then it goes to?
I personally think we need to get the town's review, second review and buy off, and then the committee can look at it and add and then we'll just keep the cycle going. But I think we need to get the town's review first.
Okay, that was my thought too.
Unless they don't, and then at that point, I would be of the mindset that we would move forward with the
Yes,
voting on the policies and procedures and hand it to them and say, this is what we want.
Okay, good. That'll be, instead of a new book to read, I'll just read policies and procedures again. Okay, next is award letter and grant agreements. We had sent drafts, draft templates to the town manager and to the town attorney for their input. They've sent it back. We just need to look at it again and make sure that every award that's given gets our either an award letter goes for town projects and grant agreements go for non-town projects. Okay, anything on those two? Okay, we covered new business for the potential prison
Gina,
trail.
Gina,
Yep.
excuse me, Gina. Janet
Sure.
is asking, and maybe we
Oh,
could
I'm
ask her a
sorry,
question.
Janet. Janet, you have your hand raised?
Actually, David does.
Oh, hi, David.
Hello, how is everybody?
Good,
Wow.
how are you?
In a brief discussion with my brother, as I understand it, we need to engineer the buildings out of the land.
Correct.
So that means we have to have the surveyor come back in and we have to decide where they're gonna engineer those lots. Which creates some problems for us in terms of taxes and to what extent the agricultural exemption will still apply. So that's where we're standing right now.
Okay, good. Thank you for the
David,
update.
quick question. David, do you have any idea how long this will take?
We're just in the winding down mode from the Christmas trees, and we hope to get going on that within the month of January.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments for David? Okay, hearing that. Janet and David, thank you so much. Okay. We did the prison trails committee representative reports. Outside Parks and Rec, nothing is going on except for we just need to straighten out the pickleball accounts. And nets are down at the pickleball courts basically for seasonal. Everything else is just going along as usual. Pat, anything for the planning board? Pat, you're muted.
Yeah, but no, I mean, we're pretty quiet right now. We don't have much going on. We have a hearing coming up next week for the old Napa building. Somebody's looking to renovate that and redo it. So that's kind of winding down, but that's all we have before us.
Okay, good. Thank you. Stacy, anything for housing?
Hi, everybody. We actually had a break for December, but we are awaiting to hear the decision about the CPC funds.
Okay, good. Thank you. And the council should be voting on that in 2 weeks. So.
Great, can't wait.
As Colin said, there was some discussion at the town council meeting for that. And if you haven't listened to it, if you go to the council and the recording on YouTube, you can listen to the discussion on that.
And Gina, I'm going to recommend for Stacy to watch for the council's finance committee and the town's finance committee meetings and maybe listen in or participate. They do have public sessions.
Absolutely. That's a definite. I'll be there.
Good point. Thank you. And if you can pass that word on to the others to listen to it, to watch for it. Okay, Jeff, anything on for you?
Nope, nothing new to report at the historical committee.
Okay, good. Thank you. Harry.
Our next meeting is January 12th. we're gonna be going over a lot of the old rules and everything, make sure they're updated. And the trail for Kitty is on that agenda.
Okay, good, thank you. Today, okay, got everybody. Public comment? I think Janet, you're our only public right now.
I think we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next meeting date is scheduled for January 25th. I can't believe it's a new year already, at 6:30, and I believe we'll still be Zoom. Okay, motion to adjourn or anything else?
Motion
Okay.
to adjourn.
Okay, second. Okay, Carlton, thank you. Okay, roll call. Tina, yes. Carlton,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
and Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. Meeting's adjourned at 7:53. And right before we get off, I'd like to wish everybody a happy new year and thank you for all your hard work this year.
Back at you.
Okay,
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
Happy New Year. Great
Happy
job.
New Year,
Paul.
everyone.
okay, good night.